Hey there traders, it's Jeff from thestockbandit.com, and I just wanted to start off the brand new week of trading with a look in the right direction, which is at the indices. As you know, that's where the trading week should begin. That's what's going to influence how individual stocks move. So as we take a look back at where we've come from, last week was not a very impressive week by any stretch. Not only did the bulls give up some ground, but they were unable to really make a stand. Meaning for the NASDAQ, this index just capped off 6 consecutive declines. Now, the last couple of sessions, they were not big, meaningful declines, and we haven't seen real heavy volume along with this retreat in price either. However, the damage is starting to really be evident here with the creation of not only a short-term lower high, but also a lower low. So last week we got through this 3100 area. We broke down pretty hard, and we're now testing this 3040 area, which was last seen, end of August, beginning of September. That's really this area right in here. So if we do happen to give up that level as well, we can probably expect a pretty quick test of this 3000 level, which is going to be another 40 points down. Now, the NASDAQ is currently holding just barely above this 3040, so it's possible that maybe we see a little bit of a head fake move and then possibly a relief rally, but also just look for that 3100 area on the way back up to possibly pose as some resistance. So we'll be very careful with how we approach this market. For the S&P, this index is back to the low end of its range after selling off some last week. Each of the indices, by the way, gave up between 2 and 3%, so none of them were able to do anything meaningful on the upside, and even bounce attempts were met with selling. We saw that again even on Friday. Let's take a look at the intraday chart here. This is a 3-minute chart. You can see the high of the day on most days last week was set early in the session. There's Thursday's high kind of mid-morning, and then we drifted lower. Here's Friday's high. We were nicely positive, and then obviously dipped into negative territory by breaking this yellow line. That's kind of the level from Thursday night's close, and once we broke below it, we never turned positive again. So that really just points to the fact that the bulls are not really interested at this point in putting cash to work, but we're seeing some profit taking and some cash being raised. So where does that cash end up going? It's going to be very interesting to see, and that's the puzzle that you and I have to figure out. So here we are back at the low end of the range, 1426. Keep in mind that was the high right here on August 21st, so that former resistance has turned into some support on a couple of different occasions, most recently on Friday, and now we're just holding narrowly above that little area. If we do get through there, then obviously we've got room to head down a little bit lower, and the first level that I'd be really watching for is this 1414 level, and that was the high right here, the March high right there, and we were able to nudge just past it, but we've seen that level really come into play on a number of occasions as both resistance and obviously potential support here as we start to retreat a little bit further here. For the Dow, this index is really testing 13,300, and it came down and just briefly undercut that on Friday and then was able to recover slightly to finish just above it. This index was up a whopping 2 points, but here it is. It's really just retreated a few hundred points here, and now it's kind of lingering at the low end of the range, and all eyes are on the indices to see whether or not they can hold these short-term support areas. If not, if we see the Dow undercut that level, we've got room to come on down and test this prior low right here from September, 12,977. And then finally is going to be the Russell, which really had been holding above this 833 pretty well until last week. It gave it up. It tested it on Thursday, was unable to hold that on a closing basis, and then finished the week on a low note, going out at a multi-week low here at 823. So this index is now coming into this 820 area right in here that we've seen pose as an important level. It'll be interesting to see if that level is able to produce a bounce, and if not, do we maybe gather a little bit more steam here and break down a little bit harder. So be very careful out there, because this market is still indecisive. We're still caught in these trading ranges for some of the indices. Others are starting to break down. Keep a very close eye on these short-term support levels. If we're able to hold them, then obviously that opens the door for a decent bounce here in the short term. And then the big question is going to be, how does that bounce get treated? Is it met with selling and people start to identify that as an opportunity for a second chance exit to raise some cash because they're concerned that lower prices are right around the corner? Or does this pullback get embraced as kind of a buyable dip, and maybe we start working our way back up toward the highs? That's going to be really the big question going forward. So really pay close attention to the character of the market moves, not just the superficial levels, but also how volume corresponds with it. How strong or weak do we close on a day-to-day basis, and where does momentum seem to be shifting? So thanks for joining me for this video. I will have more for you soon, but in the meantime, trade like a bandit.